what books I read in 2024. First ever Lynn Painter book. This next book is going to be a very unpopular opinion. The final book I read in 2024 was... Hey guys, it's Stella and welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a what books I read in 2024. So let's just get started with it. So I know this video is a little bit late, but better late than never. Okay, so the first book I read was the first book in the Summer Has Been Pretty. I read the whole trilogy in the span of a few weeks and I absolutely loved it. For y'all that don't know, it's basically about this girl named Belly, and she goes every year to spend the summer at her like family friend's lake house, I think is what it is. And then eventually there's like a love triangle between her and the two guys that are always there. And so these books were amazing. I gave them 4 stars. And then I kept on the Jenny Han train, and the next 2 books I read were To All the Boys I've Loved Before, P.S. I Still Love You, and Always and Forever, Laura Jean. So I'm not gonna lie, I read these a while ago, so I don't really remember the plot, which is not a good sign when it comes to books, because the books that you like are the ones that like stick in your brain. Like for some other books I'm about to talk about that I love, I can still remember a lot from it. But these books I remember really enjoying, and I gave them 3 stars. Okay, so the next book I read was my first ever Lynn Painter book. I now love Lynn Painter's YA novels because they're so good and her writing is just so amazing. And so basically the first Lynn Painter book I read was Better Than the Movies, and it is about Liz. I do not know how to say her last name. I always read like Buxbaum, but I know that's not right. And she has a crush on this guy from her school, and so she talks to her neighbor Wes Bennett, and she's like, because he's friends with him, I think was the plot, and she wants to like get with the guy from her school. I think his name was like Michael or something. But then eventually she ends up falling for Wes because like they just like have a really strong connection, and like I shipped them two from the beginning. I never shipped her and Michael personally, and I gave this book 5 stars. The next book I read was The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I absolutely loved this book. It is so good. It's basically about this girl, I think her name's Emily, and she is spending the night at her grandmother's, and she wakes up and she's reliving the same day over and over again. And the day that she's reliving is Valentine's Day, which is the day that she found out her boyfriend cheated on her. So she's basically stuck in the same horrible day over and over again, and she's trying to figure out how to fix what happened that day to make it better, and then how to get out of it. And I thought it was really entertaining. Like the plot kept me like wanting to keep like picking it up and reading it. I'm pretty sure I read this in like a day or 2 because I just like absolutely loved it. And I think I read this around Valentine's Day. I think I read it like around this time of year last year, because as I'm filming this, it is the day before Valentine's Day. And I really enjoyed this book, and I gave it 6 stars. The next trilogy I read, I could yap about for literally hours, and it is the Good Girls Guide to Murder trilogy. I literally love these books. Like I honestly, there's just some books that I could not tell you the specific plot of each one, which is generally not a good thing, but I remember loving them so much. And literally I read this one in a day, I think, and I read these ones in like a couple weeks, I think, or a few days, and I absolutely love them. From what I remember, so I read this a while ago, which is probably one of the reasons I can't remember some of these, but some of them I remember a lot better than others, which is always a good sign. I remember the first one, I believe, was about, she was doing a school project on a girl who went missing like some like odd years ago, and so then she starts interviewing people and she meets Ravi. I love Ravi so much. He is literally my favorite book male maybe ever, and he is just like, he's the person who was accused of the missing girl's murder's like younger brother, I think, or older, I think it's younger brother. And like at first he like really doesn't want to help the case, but she wants to prove that his brother is not guilty. Then he like starts helping her, and then they build this like really close relationship, and it is so cute, and I literally absolutely love it. And this was an amazing book. I believe I gave the first one. So the second book in the trilogy is Pip, the main character. I didn't even say the last clip. Pip is our main character, and she starts a podcast, like a true crime podcast. And when someone else in their town goes missing and the police like aren't doing anything about it, she decides that she's gonna go off and solve it herself. By the way, quick disclaimer, most things I'm saying are on the back cover, but if like you really don't want to know what happens, then this video might not be for you, but just thought I'd say that. But then like, she finds out more and she starts getting like threats, and she doesn't think that she's safe anymore, and that's all I'll say about that. I love this book. I gave this book 5 stars. By the way, I feel like I sound like I'm really willy-nilly with all of my ratings, but all the books I read in 2024 were just so good. So I'm not even like surprised. Like looking back at these, I remember how good some of these were. Some of them, I think I literally only had like one book that I did not like really enjoy. And that's like saying a lot. I think I read 22 books last year. Obviously, it's not like a ton in the grand scheme of things. In fact, there's 365 days. But 22 books when I have a life and school and orchestra and sports, that's pretty good if I do say so myself. Moving on from that, the third and final book in the trilogy is As Good as Dead. Oh my gosh. This was literally, I think, my favorite book in the trilogy. It was so good. Basically, after what happened in the last book with her getting threats from someone when she had the podcast, she's more on edge. But then, like, she is starting to see like, all these connections, like this local serial killer, like things like he does, like that are like kind of appearing like around her house and around her town. So she thinks that she's being stalked, and we kind of just like follow her as she's like trying to figure out what's happening. And I won't say much more because I do not want to get spoilers. I would hate to have this book spoiled for someone. This was absolutely one of the best books I read last year. I loved it so much, and I've never heard anyone who did not love it. So if that doesn't tell you something, then I don't know what will. But I gave this book 6 stars. Okay, this next book is gonna be a very unpopular opinion, but I next read One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, and not gonna lie, I did not like it. I have heard so many good things about this book, and everyone I've heard has talked about it has raved about it. But I gave this book like 2-3 stars max because I do not remember the plot. I think it's like one of their classmates die while they're in detention, but I guessed the ending, and I like was able to like really like easily guess who the killer was, which you really never want that in these types of books. Because what is amazing about Holly Jackson's books is that I literally was never like able to guess like who it was. Like she had me insanely on edge the whole time, which I think that this person, Karen, is not a bad writer at all. Like her writing is good, but it like didn't really interest me that much, I guess. Like when you're able to like, when you're like halfway through the book and you're like, I think it's this person, and then you're right, kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth for that book, because then it's kind of just like, oh, well, if I can guess that, then like, what was the point of me reading that ending half? But I mean, I guess it was good in the grand scheme of things, but this book wasn't for me. Don't come at me. I know it's like a really beloved book, but that's just my opinion. I think I gave it 2.5 stars. The next book I read was Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. I definitely butchered that last name. Do not come at me. But basically it is about this girl who she goes on, I think it's like a blind date, like a Tinder date or something like that. And the guy's like, she doesn't like him, like she's not attracted to him. And I think he's like trying to do stuff that she does not want to do. And there's no like spice in it, but it's just kind of like he wants to like move faster than she does. And then she accidentally kills him because I think she like, you know, hits him or gets like a car crash or something. And then she just takes the body and leaves. Or no, maybe she leaves the body behind. Either way, she then has to call up her crazy aunties for help. There's the 4 Asian aunties, and they are like trying to help her hide this body. It's a whole thing, and I love this book. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was the first book in the Caraval trilogy, and I have literally been meaning to finish this trilogy since I read this in like August, and I still haven't. I'm so bad about that. Unless like I buy the whole trilogy like in a set, I will not finish it. Like that happened later in this year in these next books. But the next book I read was the first book in the trilogy, Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I absolutely love Stephanie Garber's writing. Like, it's so like whimsical, and I liked the way they separated the chapters with, here, let's see if I can find an example. I liked the way they separated the chapters. I thought that was like really creative and really, it kept me like on edge because I wanted to like know what would happen the next day. And Caraval was basically our main character, Scarlett, has been trying to go to this Caraval event for years. And one day she is finally able to go, but it does not go as she was thinking it was going to. And it's basically, the thing on the cover says, remember, it's only a game. And that is like such like an amazing plot, and I love like the whole thing. Like she's freaking out, but it literally is only a game, and it was really good. It kept me on edge. I read it, I think, toward the end of summer, like in August or something, but I loved it and I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was Happy Place by Emily Henry, because I feel like when you're on booktube, you have to read an Emily Henry book at least once. And I loved it. It's basically about Harriet and Wynn, and they are like the dream couple, you know, everybody loves them, and then they break up and they never told their friends, so they get invited to their annual like get together at like their cottage every summer, and they have to act like they're still together, and it's just like them, it's like what's the forced proximity and like fake dating basically, and I love those tropes, so this book was 4 stars. Okay, so the next book I read was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. Once again, read the first book in a trilogy and have not finished it yet, but it's okay because I have the next 2 books and I will finish them in 2025. You guys don't hold me for that. I will finish those. Basically, it's about Evangeline, and it is she's getting married, but she doesn't want to, so she goes to the Prince of Hearts to like strike a deal, but like because he is known for being able to like do anything to help people. But he's very like backhanded, so he always has like another trick up his sleeve, and she ends up like having to do all this stuff for him because he's like, you have to hold your end of the deal because I was able to stop your wedding. And so then it becomes a whole thing, and she ends up, I think, like at the castle of like whatever monarchy is in this whole world. But I really enjoyed this book, and once again I gave it 4 stars. The final book I read in 2024 was A Funny Story by Emily Henry. Once again, I read an Emily Henry book. I have not read any since then, but I would not be opposed to it, but there's just no others that like have stuck out to me. This one I know came out in April. I think I read this in like late last year, like later fall and winter months, but I still really enjoyed it. It's basically about Daphne. She is engaged, but then it gets called off, so she has to move in with her ex-fiance's friends, her ex-fiance's new girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. I don't know if I said that right at all, but basically it's kind of forced proximity, but they like mostly chose to live together, so it's a bit different, and then you just get to see like their relationship and you know all the stuff they have to work through, and I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. And that is the end of today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and if you have any other specific book content you want from me, let me know in the comments and I will do what I can to make it. If you guys want a video of the books I've read so far in 2025, let me know. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe and stick around if you enjoyed, like the video if you liked today's video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!